preached that divine fourth Sunday of Lent, and this is the Sunday, if I were good at telling jokes, that I could start off by saying, so Jesus walks into a bar. Or I could start off by saying, the devil went down to Georgia and... Well, maybe I'll work those two in anyway. On this Lenten journey, which we are traveling together in divine, beloved community. We're doing a kind of spiritual spring training. We're raising our game by actually taking it down a notch. And this is the point, the fourth Sunday, where, maybe the muscles are feeling tight, or we're feeling a little tired, or we're feeling a little worn out, or we're wondering where we're going, or we're wondering, are we there yet? And, how long does this go on? And it's about this time that we may want to trust in things other than that power and presence of God, something other than that still small voice, some outer distraction, or something beyond ourselves. And depending on what spiritual community we're in, the text, which comes up about this time in our teachings, is about Jesus in the wilderness. And we know that it doesn't necessarily have to be Lent or a season leading from winter into spring, that there are times in our lives when we're in a wilderness place. We feel lost, we feel lonely, we're wandering. Our spiritual 7-year-old keeps saying, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? And it's interesting in the text that Jesus has been in the wilderness for 40 days. And if you want to follow along, the one that I'm referring to is in Matthew chapter 4. But this text is so important to our understanding of the man we know as Jesus the Christ, who's a way shower, that this story is also in the gospel according to the writers Mark and Luke also. There's something pivotal and transformational about this teaching. And so the Matthew writer refers to Jesus' time as being similar to Noah's and being similar to Moses' time. And we know that Moses was wandering with the children of Israel for 40 years and that Noah was going through the floods for 40 days. And so there's something significant about this number 40, and it just so happens that 40 days is about this time of the Lent journey as well. And so whether it's 40 minutes or 40 hours or 40 weeks or days or years or whatever it is, there's something in this 40 that's transformational. Something needs to happen, something needs to shift for us to get to that next place. But it's only in going through this wilderness, whatever it is, that we can get to that so-called promised land or the next thing. And so here's Jesus at the end of this. He's been fasting, he's been alone, he's tired, he's hungry, at least in body. And depending on how we read the translation, we're told that a tempter shows up and sees Jesus in this supposed weakened state and says, so if you're really the Son of God, take these stones and turn them into bread, and then you will have food to eat. Tempting choice if we're hungry. Except Jesus, quoting the teachings of the law in the book of Deuteronomy, the law book of law books, for how we're meant to live, says, "Don't you know that it is written that we do not live by bread alone, but by every word of God?" Okay, so imagine if Jesus is in the bar with the tempter, and the tempter goes off over here and goes, "Okay, wait a minute, I'm going to try another one." And so the tempter comes back and says, "Here, I'm transporting you to the highest pinnacle of the temple." Remember, if there's a temple in the story, it's a high place of transformation. The temple was important to everyone's life. It was a divine place of spiritual understanding and experience. And the tempter says to Jesus, quoting Psalm 91, "Here, go ahead, throw yourself down. For doesn't the Lord your God say, you shall not stumble, you shall not fall, you shall not tread on the lion and the adder." And Jesus says, "And don't you know that it is written, do not tempt the Lord your God." So one more time, tempter goes over here. "Oh, this guy's too good, I'm going to try another one." And so he comes back one more time. And he transports Jesus to a mountaintop. Mountaintop experiences are pinnacle, peak experiences. They're that place that once we've been there, when we come back to whatever is the rest of our lives, we are changed. We don't stay on the mountaintop, we bring the experience of the mountaintop with us. And up on this mountaintop, the tempter shows Jesus all the kingdoms and the palaces and the splendors of the world. And says, "If you bow down before me, all this can be yours." And Jesus says, "Be gone with you, tempter. For don't you know it is written, worship only the Lord your God." And then the story tells us like that, the tempter disappears, and a choir of angels comes and ministers to Jesus. And then if you look ahead in the Matthew text to the subheadings, the next piece says, "And Jesus begins his ministry." And it is only going through these wilderness experiences that we can begin that next thing, that we can have that experience, that we can live that new thing that we're ready to live. And it's so important to our understanding of Jesus as a way shower, as a master teacher, not as one we worship, but as one we follow, as a divine teacher, as a divine model. And we could at some other point have the conversation about, is there a devil or isn't there? And so just for this morning, I invite you to consider that if you reverse devil, it spells lived. And that each of us has lived through things and experiences that maybe haven't been fun. Ones we're glad we didn't post on Facebook because we're not going to do that again. And we're really glad nobody knows about it.
Yeah.
And it would be so easy to believe sometimes in that practice that says, well, I'm going to wave a magic wand and it's going to all go away. And there's few of us who haven't, in a weakened moment, looked for the quick fix. Where we've taken a whole bunch of stones and tried to make stone soup. Or some other thing that was not only not nourishing, but less than satisfying and a waste of time. When we realize that the wilderness experience is part of the transformation, we travel through it more easily because we aren't so much focused on, are we there yet, are we there yet, are we there yet? Rather, we're more focused on, am I transforming so I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not living this anymore. You know, and I know, okay, spoiler alert, Easter's coming. And we know what that means. And the only way out is still through. Even when we try to get out of these things, whatever they are. And it's easy to say, you know, it's a Bible story and there's no such thing as the devil and there's no temptations and there is Easter candy all over every place. We are being watched, and if we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google, it knows that we looked at the shoes. And then when we go to check, you know, the college basketball scores, it's flashing, shoes, buy me, buy me, buy me. We can get tempted to give up just when the spiritual weights get a little heavier. And so rather than pull in our spiritual core, rather than rededicate ourselves to our prayer and meditation time, we maybe decide, oh, you know, I'm not going to sit here. I got so much to do. I got to do the grocery list, and I got to call so-and-so. And then we get off in these little mind rolls of like, why'd they say that? Why'd they do that? I don't like that. And I like to imagine with Jesus as a way shower that Jesus had a moment, as we all have. And the spiritual peace that grounds us continually is that we have this awesome power of wisdom. We get to make choices. That we're not going to do it the same way we did it before. That we have enough shoes in our closet. Or we can wait on the chocolate. Or we're going to turn off the monkey mind and sit in our prayer and meditation time because we know that going to God first, the way Jesus did, was so important because it grounds us. It centers us. It makes it easier to say, be gone with you, temptation, whatever it is. And we know what they are. They're usually in two camps. One is the over. We overwork, we overdo, we overthink, we overeat, we overdrink. We oversleep. So glad everybody's here this morning. Or it goes the other way. We oversleep because we're filled with inertia. Nothing's happening, nothing's going. We don't do anything. We're stuck. We're stagnant. There's no movement. Oh, I'm not going to get up. It's not going to matter anyway. Either side of this is the side of temptation. But grounded in that wisdom that Jesus had, that the Matthew writer shares, that the Mark and Luke writers share also, is so important to Jesus' ministry and for us in whatever is our thing to do next. Like a couple of weeks ago when I talked about the spiritual gifts in the whole community. Whatever that thing is, that gift, is our ministry. It's our calling. And Imelda Shanklin, who's been our way shower in her awesome book, What Are You?, says it doesn't matter what happened a second before now. Now is the time to choose again. Now is the time to choose wisely. Now is the time to begin wherever we are. To say, whatever this wilderness is, we're going to work through it. We're going to go through it. How awesome that we have a beloved community so we're not lonely on this. Because it's easy for the hour that we're all together and the few minutes later when we have coffee and we hug each other, and then there's the other 23, no, today it's 22 hours, right? Other 22 hours when we're out in the world. We've come off the mountaintop, as it were, and now we have to go do this until we get back together again. But we get to do it now, step by step, making the choices, looking at what is passing away, what we're moving through, because we know that Easter and that call to newness is coming. No matter what is occurring, we're in that awesome power of choice. And we can choose. Are we going to do it the easy way? Or are we going to do it the God way? Which actually, it turns out, is the easiest way of all. I love you. Namaste.
Namaste.